What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Katie Mox. Today, we're talking Monday Night Football. We're also going to look into Thursday Night Football, week 2 of the NFL season. And we are in for such a treat today. You know him, you love him. Allan Bell from CBS Sports Digital and The Early Edge. He's the executive producer. He hosts every once in a while, and he's your everyday lovable DJ. Allan, how are we doing?
Doing fantastic. You doing all right?
I'm hanging in there.
You know what? Hey, Katie, first off, I'll tell you this. You know what? The Venmo is on the way for that nice introduction, so I appreciate that one.
Oh, I mean, come on. You are one of my favorite people actually on the planet. So I'm so excited that you are able to join us today. One of the hardest working guys over there at Sportsline as well. Y'all have a lot going on for the football season. I see we've got the Sportsline model show. The Early Edge is killing it a couple times a week. What's going on at Sportsline?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And you just said it right there. You know, we've expanded so much, and we've kind of found a way to deliver news shows, but do it, you know, in a succinct manner, so to say, right? Like, we don't want to take everyone's time, but we also want to make sure that we hit you with, you know, lines, wagers, best bets, all of that as quick as possible, closest to the game. So yeah. We're excited for sure.
I know it's so funny. Like, people, I was thinking of, do you remember, it was funny in the pre-show, we were talking about local news, and it was a few years ago, there was like a local news hit of like, it was like back to school, and this woman reporter is interviewing the little boy, and she was like, "Are you going to miss your mom?" And he's like, "No." And then he starts crying. And I feel like it's like people who work in football, we're so excited for this season. But if someone asks me after the first week how I'm doing, I'm like, "Ha!" And I want to start crying because I'm not used to it.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy right there, because you're right. Like, you're so excited for it. And then, like, literally today, and Katie, you especially, like, you wake up and you're like, "Oh, that's right. We only get 2 hours of sleep all weekend."
Yes.
That's how it goes. Yeah.
Yes, that's how it goes. And we love it. And we're happy to be here. But let's talk about week 1, right? Because I got to tell you, Allan, I got killed in prime time. Kadarius Toney absolutely ruined my life and all of my bets on Thursday Night Football. Last night, thought the Giants could cover the 3.5, 40-0. And then during the slate of games, there were kind of a lot of surprises. So want to talk, one, how'd you do on your bets?
Yeah, so we actually did really well, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I bet a ton, like, and I do this, you know, every NFL season. I bet a ton of interceptions, and I bet a ton of total punts over in games. So I'll give you a perfect example. Eagles and Patriots yesterday. Bet the total of over 8.5 punts in that game.
Wow.
It goes like the first quarter with one punt that just came towards the end, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be terrible." Second quarter, 7 punts. It was just amazing, right? So, yeah, luckily, I kind of faded a lot of things, and it helped out. Except the 49ers are just on fire. I know, right? Like, I was all over them, and, you know, I'm not going to, like, take any credit because they're unbelievably good. But they were pretty much the only team that showed up in week 1.
The Cowboys too, but I guess actually the Giants more beat themselves. Like, I don't even know. We'll get into that in 1 second. But yes, one that is such a good strategy, and I have to write this down to remember for next year: bet on punts and bet on interceptions in week 1. That is definitely the way to do it. You know, the Niners, oh man. I had the under in that game, which was a little bit of a sweat considering the Niners dropped 30 points. I thought this was going to be lower scoring on both sides. I knew what the 49ers defense could do, and they certainly held up. I really kind of overestimated, I guess, the Steelers defense. TJ Watt did all he could do, but the rest of them, Patrick Peterson ate a little bit of crow there. He is a fellow CBS Sports employee, and we love him. But Brock Purdy didn't tip you off at all. I'll say that.
No. And, you know, that was, Katie, that was the most fascinating part too, is that, you know, we all thought, okay, you have 2 teams with really good defenses and 2 teams, not saying anything negative about the quarterbacks, but they're not the focal point of the offense, right? And the 49ers said, no, he is. Like, he's good. And we're going to show you that. And we're also going to run the football down your throat. And it was funny, like, hearing you say that you had the under, because you had probably a heck of a sweat there in the last 2 minutes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, for sure.
First of all, being a 49ers fan and being too scared to lay the 2.5 points, right, under a field goal with them and then taking the under, you just feel like such a chump, right? So at least the under actually did hit. And you know what, to your point, Allan, too, you think about this quarterback class, right? It was seen as an incredibly weak quarterback class. Kenny Pickett was the first one to be picked in the draft, but not in the first round, or what was he in the second round or the very end of the first round? I can't remember, but not a great quarterback class. Then you got Brock Purdy as Mr. Irrelevant. These two guys going against each other. And really, Kenny Pickett had a rough game. I mean, I know that he was up against the 49ers, but from what we saw in preseason, I thought Kenny Pickett was going to be dealing a little bit better than he was. Let's talk about that Patriots and Eagles game. Tom Brady retirement ceremony. I thought I was on the Patriots to cover in this one, which was great. But well, not really, because it was 4 points and I ended up losing by 5. But the Patriots could have won this game, which I thought was so interesting. Any thoughts on this Eagle team? Is it that the Patriots are the real deal, which Tony Romo said after the game? Is it that their defense is the real deal, or are the Eagles regressing a little bit?
It's a good question, right? And think about this too. All right, if you're the Patriots, that game started as horrifically as you could even write that, right? Yeah. I mean, it was 16-0 right out of the gate, and the Eagles maybe ran 6 offensive plays. But that's what the Patriots do, man, is that when they stop beating themselves, their defense is legit. Yeah. And their offense, like, honestly, besides the pick 6, from Mac Jones, I thought he actually had a pretty decent game. He kind of settled in nicely there. Yeah. So I think we look at it and say, okay, the Patriots, they played better than we thought. Yeah. Throughout the whole game. Yeah. The Eagles, I don't know.
Be worried.
What would have happened if they weren't spotted like 2 free touchdowns, basically, right? Yeah. Like, I don't know if they win that game. But to a larger point, are we now looking at almost like a cultural shift in the NFL to where starters don't play at all in the preseason?
Yeah.
This week 1, is it even a real look? Like, should we even pay attention, or is it kind of like preseason week 4? You know what I mean?
Well, and that's why I think, to your point, betting the punts and the interceptions is so smart and sharp. And speaking of, and obviously Joe Burrow didn't play due to injury, but that is a guy who very clearly needs the preseason, because what happened there? Again, I felt like such a clown because I was on the Bengals. I was like, this time they're going to go in there. Their offense is too potent. Deshaun Watson, we didn't really know we were going to get from him. Obviously, he looked pretty good yesterday. What did you think about this Bengals and Browns game? Is it that the Bengals are off to a slow start and Joe Burrow needs preseason, or are the Browns going to be scary?
It's both, honestly. Yeah. So, on the Bengals side, 100%. There are so many factors too going in. Obviously, the injury part that you mentioned too. Number 2, and even though this isn't a real thing, but it's kind of a real thing. When players get paid right before the season starts, I don't know what it is, but they don't start well, right? Yeah. And again, it's not tangible, so it's not like I'm coming out with it like this is real, but for some reason, it just doesn't work. Like, the Bengals just had everything going against them. And if you look at the Cleveland Browns, you kind of have a head coach in Kevin Stefanski who knows what time it is, that it's kind of do or die. They went and fixed the defense. They went and added a ton of people, a ton of players to that defense, and it worked out, right? So, I like, to answer your question, I think it's both. Now, how far do the Browns go? Who knows? But that was a great start by them for sure.
That was a great start for them, for sure. And that was one of the ones that really shocked me. Even the Browns winning wouldn't be that shocking, but the way that they won and how bad the Bengals looked and Joe Burrow, that was really shocking to me. One of the biggest upsets, at least for me, that did really well, I had Dolphins money line. That was going to be an upset for me. It was at plus 140. Tua threw for 466 yards. It's the 4th most in a season opener in NFL history. Tyreek Hill, had 215 receiving yards, his 9th career game, with 175 plus receiving yards. It's the 2nd most in NFL history. What did you think of this game? I mean, that was kind of a showstopper game.
Yeah, it was, right? And look, for every single Chargers game since legitimately 1 AD, they're down with 1 minute left. That's Chargers games every single time. It doesn't matter, the coach, quarterback, whatever. Look, you got to give huge props to the Miami Dolphins, right? Yeah. Tua had a heck of a game. McDaniels had a heck of a game, calling that, coaching it. And let's give them credit too, because how it started, they get all the way down to the 1 and then they fumble and then the Chargers go down and score. Like, I mean, honestly, like how many games are we going to talk about where those kind of things happened? And the fact that they were like, okay, well, you know what? Let's just come back and win this game. And they did. It was a heck of a game. It was back and forth. It was a lot of fun. It was what we thought it would be. Nice job on that money line, by the way, going all the way. Like, you legitimately can't go further across the country than, San Diego or Los Angeles, I'm sorry, and San Diego, Los Angeles and Miami. And
don't worry. Every time I see the Raiders, I'm like, where are they? LA?
I know.
Vegas? Like whenever they move a team, I have no idea where they are. But that was the thing. And my analysis was the Chargers find ways to lose games at the very end. And that's exactly what ended up happening here. One other thing with the NFC West, the Rams and the Seattle Seahawks, everybody was real high on them. A lot of people saying that they're going to win the NFC West. Now, this is a very, very small sample size. Rams look kind of good.
Yeah.
Seahawks kind of done. Now, they did lose their right and left tackles, which was pretty bad.
A little difficult.
Little difficult to overcome. But any thoughts on Rams and Seahawks?
Look, what you just said, one, with the injury. But number two, excuse me, you have to give the Rams credit because we all collectively wrote them off, right? And kind of rightfully so. I mean, you look across this team, so much talent is gone. It's funny listening to Kelly Stafford talk about how Matt can't relate with the younger players, right? And I was like, oh, is Matt old? Oh, he's 35. Like, no, he's not old at all. But, I mean, it's just funny that Sean McVay knows what he's doing. And also with the NFC West, it's really interesting how you have these, like, pockets of it almost plays out to where, like, Sean McVay can always beat Pete Carroll, right? But then like Pete Carroll, for some reason, can get at Kyle Shanahan. But then Kyle, like, it's so strange. Like, you have three teams in the Cardinals that are really good. And I thought that the Rams would take a big step back. And obviously, it's only one weekend. But long story short, you got to give them credit, man. That was a big win.
Big win. All right. Speaking of big wins, Sunday Night Football, Giants lost 40-0. It was the Cowboys' largest shutout win in franchise history. They're the first team to win a game by 40-plus points without a pass touchdown since the 2004 Chiefs. Allan, the Giants aren't this bad, right? No. I mean, they're not this bad. I remember watching it last night. I'm like, I don't think this is getting any worse. And then it kept getting worse. They were beating themselves, and not to take anything away from the Cowboys. The Cowboys played a good game, but holy hell, what happened?
Yeah, no, you're right. And look, honestly, like, we can't really even take into account, like, the Cowboys offense second half because the game was out of hand and it's just going to be bad data, right?
Yeah.
But you look at the first half, the Cowboys offense wasn't really that great. I'm not saying it was bad, but it's not like that they were crushing. The Giants just imploded as soon as that field goal was blocked. Like, they just completely flipped because that drive, they were going down the field. Like, I thought it was going to be Daniel Jones running the touchdown, and it was like, here we go. I'll say this. The Dallas Cowboys are they're going to be Jekyll and Hyde this year. If anybody live bets, the Dallas Cowboys are built defensively that if they have a lead on you, that defensive front is going to – it's going to be like the 49ers. They're going to pin their ears back, and they're coming. And they've got great corners that can sit on routes, right, and just jump passes, and they're going to intercept. It's going to be hell on earth. But if you could get a lead on Dallas, completely different, right? Yeah. So I think that, that's something to pay attention to, especially, if you live bet those games. But, I mean, Dan Quinn, his defense looked great, obviously.
Yeah.
And that's what we saw out of Dallas throughout training camp and throughout the preseason was that their defense are a bunch of alpha dudes, and they showed it. Like, they played like it, right? So got to give them credit on that for sure. And the Giants aren't that bad. Like, it was just a bad matchup because they need to run the football, and it's tough to do it when you're down 6,000 to nothing.
Yeah, and the rain didn't help. Obviously, the ball popped out a few times, and then, they were able to run it back for touchdowns. Micah Parsons ate last night.
Yeah.
He played really well. He's one of those. And I think also for him, too, he's looking at that Nick Bosa deal, and he's like, hey, I want that kind of money, So he's going to show out this year. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk Monday Night Football picks. We're also going to lean in a little bit to Thursday night. You're watching Moxie Bets. We'll be right back. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. All right, Allan. Let's talk about the game tonight. Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets. If you're a New Yorker, you gotta hope the Jets have a better showing at MetLife Stadium tonight than that pitiful performance by the Giants entering Monday Night Football. 10 road teams have won in week 1. It's the 3rd most in a season in NFL history, 12 since 1983. What are we thinking here? Head to head, the under is hit in 3 straight meetings. Buffalo's won 5 of the last 6, but then we're looking at Aaron Rodgers here. Aaron Rodgers on Monday night, the last 9, he's 9-0. It's the 3rd longest win streak in NFL history. What do you think?
Yeah, you just said it right there with that sigh. Like, we don't know. Like, that's the big question is that, and look across, like, not only like bets that we have, but bets probably across every sports book that no one really knows what to do with the Jets because you have such a large brand name quarterback with a brand new team. And, you know, he's going to be fine in terms of, you know, what he does in terms of throwing, in terms of reading a defense, but it's the little things, right? Like it's, if you meet someone brand new in a business setting or whatever, like you don't know how that person is. You don't know how their sense of humor is, how far you, like how well you could tell a joke, how far you could go with a joke. Do they even laugh at jokes, right? Like you don't know. And yeah, and like that's the difficult part. And then with such limited preseason looks, there's going to be rust. Like, and you know, specifically, you know, taking snaps under center from a center that you've never worked with before. How does your offensive line work? Your running backs in terms of pass pro, like all these little things. But that being said, it's going to be a fun game. I can't wait to watch it. And I'm kind of on a lot of Bills plays here because I think that they're going to come in fired up. I know.
Well, here's the thing. One, you just said everything so beautifully, and I totally agree. Like I started a new job on Sundays, and there's people that I've never worked with before, even though I've been on television before. I know betting, and I've met these people, and they're all really nice. It takes a while to build chemistry with your coworkers, and so I agree with you. And so that's why I think that Aaron Rodgers coming to the division is the best thing that ever happened to the Bills because it takes a lot of pressure off of them. Everybody's looking at Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, even though the Bills are the best team in this division. Make no mistake. I will say, look, Bills laying 2 on the road here, minus 125 on the money line, point total 45.5. I'm going under on this one. And I said it, you know, in the setup here, the under has hit in 3 straight meetings. Buffalo had the best road record last year in 2022. The Jets defense is legit. They're legit. They allowed the 4th fewest points per game, under 19 last season. And they held the Bills to just 17 and 20 in their 2 respective games last year. Buffalo's defense also really legit, finished 2nd in points allowed at just under 18. That we're looking at 40 just when you look at what happened last year. And like you said, it's Aaron Rodgers. We're all really excited about this Jets team. But the offense is a little overhyped early on in the season for all of the reasons that you just said. Like, I can't imagine that without playing a full first game, Rodgers is really going to be acclimated with his new receivers, with his offensive line, which already kind of worries me a little bit. I think it's the most concerning thing about the Jets. So I think a slow start is going to be likely. Also, Aaron Rodgers kind of struggles in week 1. If you look at the last few years, he's failed to lead his offense for more than 10 points in 3 of his last 4 season openers. So I'm with you on the Bills here. I lean that they're going to cover this, but I'm doing the same thing that I did in the Niners game. I'm playing a little chicken here, and I'm just taking the under.
No, I think it's chicken. No, I think it's a smart play. All right, so I'm on the Bills -2. I'll take the points here with that. But Katie, everything you just said, I 1000% agree with it, right? Because I think both of these teams are going to look across and realize that you can't win the game in the first half, but you could certainly lose the game like the Giants in the first half. So let's not take any risks. We're not throwing crazy deep passes. Well, the Bills probably will. The Jets probably don't. But that being said, that's why I love your play of the under in that one. Unders have hit in week 1, I think, 11 out of 15 so far. So, yeah, I mean, it's a solid look. And number 2, you know, the Bills defense, we all talk about their offense, and rightfully so. It's exciting for sure. Their defense is legit.
Yeah.
Like, we don't ever discuss that. And everything you just laid out is 100% correct. And that defense travels too. Like, they'll play it at home, on the road, all of that. So 100%. And I don't know how much this plays into it, but it's not like Aaron Rodgers hasn't played in MetLife before. But when it's your home, it's a little different, right? Like, it's like moving into a new house or new apartment or anything that you kind of get to know the feel. Like, the wind is a little bit different. The sunlight coming in is a little bit different. Like, there's just different things that go on. So all that leads to an under. I like it.
All right, but you're hammering the Bills here.
Yeah, I'm all over the Bills. I think that they're just too good. Yeah, the Jets defense is legit for sure. I don't know about all time, like they want to call it out, but it is really good. That being said, I mean, Josh Allen can score on anyone. So, yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. And so that's why Josh Allen is an interesting play for me. So, because I've got him in two different things. I got him over on his rushing. I got him for an anytime touchdown. I love an interception, actually, now that you brought this up. But I am going to take him under on his passing yards. Is at 251.5, minus 117 over there on Caesar Sportsbook. And basically, there's two reasons why. It's Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, two of the most lockdown corners in the game. Last year, they held the Jets, the Jets held the Bills to their lowest yardage totals of the season, 232 and 317. Allen threw for under this total in both of those games against the Jets last season, 205 and 147. He's going to be scrambling. He's going to be using his leg. That's one of my best bets ever. But I think when it comes to yards, he's going to have a hard time finding receivers open.
Yeah. So, you know what? I'll say this. I'm on Stephon Diggs over 5.5 receptions. And it completely correlates with exactly what you're saying, right? Like, there could be more passes in terms of underneath and not a lot of yardage. And it could be difficult to find consistently throwing deep passes like they normally do. So I'm with you on that. I think that, the under passing yards is probably the way to go. And like you said, this is a really good defense. So they're going to be playing cover zero, man press, which, watch tonight, when you see the corners on the sides here, like if you've got the line of scrimmage, they're going to be basically almost offsides. That they're going to be so tight on these wide receivers, because what they're going to do is, as soon as the ball is snapped, they want to hit you, right? Like, they want to get you off of your route. And you're going to have to not only deal with that, we're going to have to cut route short too. So, long story short, I'm with you. I think Diggs, he always gets his receptions because he gets so many, but the yardage could be tough. I completely agree with you on that. Yeah.
Well, and Josh Allen wasn't too far behind Dak Prescott last year in interceptions. It's not available on Caesar Sportsbook, but I'm sure it's going to be available on other books. Take the cookie, because he's going to be serving that one up, especially when you have these two corners back there. All right, my other one I'm looking at is Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson, to me, is just special. He is a special wide receiver, and now he's with the 4-time MVP. If you look at him last season, he won the Offensive Rookie of the Year with a quarterback carousel that consisted of Joe Flacco, Zach Wilson, and Mike White. Now he's got the 4-time MVP, and we can tell that Aaron Rodgers already trusts him. I'm sure you watched Hard Knocks, right? And Aaron Rodgers doesn't trust a lot of people. You drop passes, he doesn't throw to you anymore. Garrett Wilson is a target that he is going to be throwing to, and the Bills have a really tough run defense. They allowed the 6th fewest yards on the ground last season. So I feel like he's going to be targeted a lot. He's going to get a lot of looks, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes over 68.5 yards.
Yep, I like that. And I think you're, spot on with the Bills defense, that they're going to load up the box and show some, kind of special exotic looks, that they're going to try to bait Aaron into throwing more, because they know it's his first game with a new team. Now, running backs, I mean, they'll be good to go, right? So, the game plan would be, all right, let's stop the run as much as we can, and let's force Aaron to throw it. So, number one, that's how the game plan is going to go. But number two, with Garrett Wilson, spot on. Like, that's going to be his guy. And look at last year with Green Bay. I mean, even Aaron didn't trust those guys, right? So, like, you're spot on in regards to that. I like that play a lot. I'm going with the first half under. I'm going the first half under 22.5, because one, I really, really like your full game under play. And number two, again, you can't win it in the first half, but you certainly can't lose it. Then I think we see some feeling out between each other and not taking too many risks and a lot of short dump passes, Josh Allen design runs. Yeah, first half under 22.5. Let's get it.
All right, let's take an early look at Thursday night football. Of course, I love the first half under as well. Let's take both of them. So as of Monday morning, when we were filming this, Eagles are 7.5-point home chalk, total 48.5. These were two teams. I'm sorry, it's the Vikings and the Eagles, if I haven't already said. These were the two teams with the best records last season, and they had a kind of a rough first start this weekend. Vikings were upset by the Bucs 20-17 due to costly turnovers in the first half. Kirk Cousins turned the ball over 3 times, fumbling twice and throwing an interception. And Tampa was a team that a lot of people thought would have the least amount of wins this season. Then they come out and they beat the Vikings, who I've always been saying were frauds last year, but I certainly didn't expect them to lose that game. Then you got the Eagles, who we talked about, narrowly winning against the Patriots, came down to that final minute. What are we thinking for this game? 7.5 is a lot of points. You got to think that the Vikings are going to come back here. It's a short week for both of them. Both of them, even though the Eagles won, I think both of these teams are disappointed in how they played. What are your initial thoughts for this game? Any early leans?
Yeah. So, all right, you just nailed it right there. The Vikings with the turnovers in the first half, right? So if you have, let's say you're doing a show and it's an hour long, and the first 30 minutes, jokes aren't hitting, stats aren't coming up, like it's just not going well, right? What do you do the next show?
Pivot.
Button it up in the first 30 minutes. That's exactly what Minnesota's going to do. They're going to play it a little more conservative. They're not going to risk too many factors. Now, going against Philadelphia, I don't have the number in front of me, but if you go back to the beginning of 2022, Philadelphia is, I think, close to the highest scoring first quarter team in NFL history.
Yes, last year. Totally. Yeah. Yes.
Take the Eagles in the first half. Like it's a complete mismatch of the Vikings don't want to do anything risky, and the Eagles want to do everything risky to get up because they know that that's their game plan. So yeah, leading to that. Now, as for the full game, I'm with you, 7.5. Never want to eat that hook. I'll definitely play the Eagles in the first half, though.
I like the Eagles in the first half. I know Thursday night games are typically lower, but we also used to get really crappy Thursday night matchups. And now that it's gone over to Amazon, I feel like we're getting some better matchups. I might be flirting with an over here at this 48.5, because I think, we do know that the Vikings have offensive firepower. Now, of course, it's Kirk Cousins in prime time. I know Monday night is his really big bad thing, but you got to think that this Vikings offense has to play better than that. They have to get some points on the board. And Jalen Hurts was locked down. So I do think that he's going to be scoring a lot more. So not locking anything in yet, but I'm kind of flirting with this over 48.5 at this point.
Well, yeah. Just a little flirt texting there, right? Like we're just kind of feeling this thing out. I'm with you. Honestly, when you have two teams that think about college football, week 1 to week 2 is where you see your largest jumps because you see what didn't go well and you can adjust in practice that week. Now it's a short week of practice, but the NFL doesn't need a ton. So the Eagles and Vikings are both saying, oh, okay, all right, we got it. Calm down. We just got to fix a couple things. They're both going to be aggressive, definitely in the second half. Eagles full game. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, over. It's a solid play.
It's gonna be such a fun one to watch. Now, I've been preaching all year long that the Eagles are headed to regression. It's just so hard to be a team that loses in the Super Bowl to come back and be as strong, and their schedule is a lot harder. And if there was any indication on how they struggled offensively against, yes, the Patriots and Bill Belichick are always going to be a strong defensive team, but that game had no business being that close. And to your point, they got a lot of help from some miscues by Mac Jones in the offense in the very beginning. I think they could have lost that game easily. So I'm not laying the 7.5. I think the Eagles should win this game, but I wouldn't be surprised if they lost either. But that's also my bias kicking in because we do know that I'm a little bit of an Eagles hater.
You know what? I respect it.
All right. So now is the time. And this is your first time on this show. We give out Mox Locks. These are the ones that we are definitely taking to the window. It's kind of similar to the all on the line play. Let's take it back to Monday Night Football. What would be your Mox Lock?
Josh Allen over half an interception, minus 135. Yeah. Josh Allen's going to put one up because what I love about the kid is that he's aggressive. And I feel it. I like to live aggressively as well, right? We go for it, say, look, I can do that. No problem. But this Jets defense is for real. They're going to pick one off. They'll jump around. Yeah, I'll take it.
100%. Tailing that with you all day long. I'm on Josh Allen as well. I'm taking him over the 36.5 rushing yards. I also kind of like him for an anytime touchdown. That's at plus 160. And we talked about this earlier, Allan. He's going to struggle to find open receivers tonight with that Jets complete lockdown secondary. He's going to throw a pick. And usually when that happens, we see some of his best rushing numbers because he is forced to scramble, and he is still a big body, especially in the red zone. Last season against the Jets, he rushed for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns in one of those games. It was actually his best of the season. He also went over this number in 11 of 17 games last year. So Josh Allen, he's going to have a hard time in the passing game. I think he's going to rush a lot. I think he's going to throw a cookie, and I also think he's going to run one in and win the game, -2.
There we go. There we go.
It's going to be a big game for Josh. All right. Speaking of Allan Bell, thank you so much for joining us today. Really, really appreciate your time. Talk to us about just some of the programming that's coming up with Sportsline and the Early Edge that people can hop over and follow and watch you guys, because it's a lot of really good information.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you having me. This is so much fun. Yeah, the Early Edge. So we have daily shows at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can find that on youtube.com/sportsline. And you can also find us on primetime games, the same place. We'll go live at 7:30 p.m. Eastern with a full hour breaking down Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football. So we'll be live tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, breaking down Bills, Jets, and exactly how many times Josh Allen is going to run this ball in the end zone. So there we go.
Do you think he's going to have more than one interception or just one?
Well, here's the thing. Once he has one, he generally has 2, because he'll throw one in the red zone, which always happens early, and then they play aggressively as the game goes. So I'm going to say he has 1 first half, 1 second half, and then once he throws one in the red zone, that's when he stops throwing in the red zone.
And then he starts running.
Yeah,
Let's cash them all today, Allan Bell. You can follow him on Twitter at Allan G. Bell. It's ALLAN. Spells a little bit differently, which I appreciate about you. Again, thank you so much for your time. This has been a blast. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Good luck with your bets tonight, and we'll see you soon.